Hey guys, this is The Polygamist, Season 1, Episode 5. Episode 5. Okay, so the scene opens up, and Matipa, Gesh, and some other people are in a meeting. And Gesh goes, Matipa, are you telling me that you want to settle for 3.5 million? And Matipa was like, Gesh, I can take this matter to court, and J&J won't survive what I will expose to the public. And Gesh was like, you be dragging your name through the mud. And she goes, where's Jonas? The man who actually makes the decisions. And Gesh was like on holiday with his wife. And, and Matipa just like, damn. So the scene shifts and they're in Victoria Falls, Jonas and Joyce's. And he walks up behind Joyce and hugs her and says, I'm glad we had a chance to get away. And so he's kissing all on her neck. And he says, I have such a beautiful wife. And Joyce is just looking like, and she was like, oh, I heard all this before. And he's like, come on, baby. And then they hug and kiss and things like that. And he said, I mean it for good this time. And I'm here to stay and I ain't going nowhere. But Joyce is having flashbacks of Jonas having a divorce, kissing Matipa, and all that. He was just like, I love you, Joyce, and let's not dwell in the past. But Joyce is not really feeling it. And so she is just like, should I believe him? Should I not believe him? What should I do? And he just keeps telling her, Joyce, I love you, I love you, I love you. But she looked like she's kissing HIV, like, but you know, she's kissing him anyways. And they have a little, sex scene. So the scene shifts, and we are in Essie's home, where Gesh is working on some brick, putting it together with a screwdriver, and Essie is counting the money. And Gesh was like, Essie, you don't have to count the money, it's all there. And then uh, as he's talking about Joyce, how why would Joyce think Jonas is going to change? He's never going to change. He brought her down to her knees where the rest of us are. And Gesh was like, baby, think people can change. Like, not Jonas, not Jonas. And then uh, in the middle of the conversation, Sarah's like, Ma. And then as he just keeps on talking, and Sarah's like, Ma. And Essie's like, what? And then I want a new phone. And she goes, what happened to your, Essie goes, what happened to your phone? And then Gesh goes, it's broken. And then Sarah's like, no, 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 no. I want a new phone like Moonpay, like Moon. And Essie was like, you want an iPhone. You want an iPhone like Moon. And she was like, yeah, why can't I have an iPhone? She goes like, there you go again. You always want something like Moon. No, your phone is fine. You don't need an iPhone. So if you don't want things to get ugly, you better shut up. And she kept saying something, and Gesh was like, Essie, she heard you. So the scene shifts and we see slutty ass Ladani. And she's listening to this bomb ass song. I don't even know what it's called, but it's in her headphones. And she's just, just standing there, moving her foot, tapping her foot, listening to the music. And then Minzy comes in the room like, oh, okay, I got this because he sees Ladani. And he goes, this liquor fermented for 25 years in Lorraine, France, and blah, blah, blah. He, and Ladani was like, oh, you sure know a lot of stuff. And then Mook, she comes downstairs and it's like, okay, Ladani, let's finish our assignment so I can hit the streets. So uh Ladani was like, well, instead of doing this assignment and going picking up a visa, you guys got the house to yourselves. Let's throw a party. And Moop was like, like she looked so uncomfortable. And Ladani was like, Mincy, you got the house. You're the man of the house. Why not throw a party? And Mincy was like, I don't know. And then he looks at Moop, and Moop is like, giving that face, like, no, 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 no. And then he goes, sure, why not? And then she goes, let's party. And then Ladani's like, well, let's call Mumbai. And then she goes, hello, Mumbai. I was like, oh, you screwed up, Mincy. So the scene shifts, and Batipa is on Jonas's or Joyce's Instagram, one of them, and she has a friend. And the friend was like, you should say you have a sex tape and release it. And I'm like, why? And then she goes, you know what, Frank? Fuck Jonas. Fuck motherfucking Gomorrah. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get myself a man 10 times more powerful than him. And she goes, you understand me. That's my girl. I'm just like, you're just gonna be a double slut, Matipa. So the scene shifts, and it's Joyce and Jonas, and he was like, let's have a baby. And Joyce was like, no. And then he was like, the baby boy's name will be Malagisi. And then she was like, oh, no. And then Jonas was like, he will make the family all so well. And then Jonas was like, I want to go home. Jonas was like, we got one more day. Let's just enjoy it. And then the scene shifts, and Jonas is on the phone with Minzy. And he's telling Minzy, Moon has not been answering my calls. And Minzy's like, oh, her phone is upstairs on the charger. She's just probably missed some of your calls. And he goes, let me talk to her. So Minzy tries to hand Moop the phone, but Moop was like, I don't want to talk to him and whatever. And he was like, Dad, she left. Ladani must have came. And Jonas was like, don't you lie to me. Put me on speaker. So Minzy put them on speaker, and he's having this whole conversation. It's like, hey, I'm your dad. I'm not going anywhere. You're going to have to accept that. Minzy, you're going to have to step up and be a man. And Mook just walks right out the door. Okay, so Matiba is with the minister, and the minister was like, oh, I'm surprised I got a call from you. I didn't think I would ever hear from you because you seemed happy at J&J. And Matipa was like, well, let's say me and J&J didn't agree anymore, and I want to make a career pivot. And the minister was like, you know what? Let's stop beating the bush around like little kids. I want to get to know you more. Every little inch of you. And Matipa was like, oh. and she's sipping on her wine. I'm like, you're just doing this to get back at Jonas, girl. Okay, so the scene shifts and we are in the Gomorrah home, and there's cars outside, and there's a lot of people inside dancing, making out. Moomba's making out with her man, and Ladani and her man are kissing, and then Ladani goes in the middle of the kitchen, starts, gyrating her hips and all that. And Menzies taking a shot because he's getting horny. So he brings a bucket of ice with some nice ass alcohol in it. And he was like, hey. And then Ladani just keeps dancing. And then he taps her like, hey. And she goes, oh, hey, Minty. And he was like, I brought, some champagne. And she was like, oh, you bringing up the good stuff. And Freedom, that's his name. Freedom is looking like, uh-oh. And Madonna goes, oh, someone like you is always needed, Minzy. And she goes, babe, look what Minzy brought for us. And he goes, I just need a little more ice. And then he grabs the bucket and says, babe, where should we drink this? Inside or outside? And LaDonnie grabs the glasses like, outside. And he goes, good choice. And she goes, mwah, bye, Minzy. So Freedom walks over to Minzy and was like, oh man, she got you at the palm of her hands. And she goes, the main man, mama's little boy. And Minzy was like, forget all that. Who are all these people? I told you to come alone. And Freedom was like, forget all that. So they're outside, Moon and her boyfriend, and they're just making out like crazy. And she was like, do you want to go back to the party? We've been outside for a minute. He was like, no, let's go to your bedroom and spend some quality time. And she was like, we both been drinking. I want my first time to be special, And she goes, do you understand? And he's like, I do, but I don't want to fuck you. And so he's like, I'll wait, baby. I'll wait for you. And she was like, thank you, Bongs. And they just making out. So Stada is upstairs in Moop's room. And she's just looking around like, oh my God. And then she looks at this ugly sweater, and she goes, money really can't buy you style. Ugh. And then she see Moon's phone on her dresser, and she's like, she slips it off the charger and puts it in the back of her bra and walks out the room. So the scene shifts, and Joyce and Jonas gets home, and they see their driveway is full of strangers' cars. And she goes, oh, what the kids done now? And Jonas was like, I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill them. And just like, no, wait, babe. No, wait, babe. So they get in the house. Moob runs to a container or a glass, throws up in it. And Freedom and this random girl are making out on their sink. And Ladani is dancing all sexual on their kitchen table, and Jonas is just looking at her like, wow. And then he goes and turns off the music, and Freedom goes, who turns off the music, man? We're dancing. He's so drunk. So Jonas yells at everybody like, get out my house, get out my house. Moonpay, look at you. It's embarrassing. And then they go into like a living room or somewhere. And oh my gosh, Freedom is so drunk he can barely stand. And he goes, I can't expect this from you four, but from Freedom, I can. And Freedom was like, I don't have to sit here and listen to this. My boy, I'm out. And then he says, "Thank you, Jay." And he leaves. And he goes, "Sarah, go with him." So now he's getting on top of Mincy. He's like, "Every time I leave this house, do I have to get a nanny? I have to get a nanny to babysit you guys. Take Moop to her room." And then Ladani was about to get up, and Joyce was like, "Where do you think you going? You gonna clean up this house. Get to it." So the scene shifts, and Jonas is sitting at his office, and he takes the ring off his pinky finger, and he's just looking at it, and he puts it down and takes a sip of his whiskey. So the scene shifts, and it's morning. So Ladani spent the night, and she asked Ladani, "Hey, did you see my phone while you was cleaning?" And Ladani was like, "No, you could ask Mrs. Newbottom T, the cleaner, or the caregiver." And Minzy was like, "Oh, what's all this noise? You know it's early in the morning." And Moon was like, "Have you seen my phone?" And he was like, "No, have you tried calling it?" And she was like, "Let me see your phone so I can find my phone." And he goes, do you ever ask me nicely?" And she just slapped him. So Moon is on my finder, and it says 87D Suwatio. So I guess that's like, it just looks like a regular smegular neighborhood. I guess that's what they call a township. I don't know. So the scene shifts, and does everybody in Africa just walk into people's homes? Like, is that a thing? Anyhow, so Moop and Ladani show up in Soweto at Essie's house, the address where the phone is. And Essie was like, "Hi, Moop, what do you want?" And Sarah's like, "What are you doing here?" And she was like, "It's Freedom here. I need to see my phone." And she goes, "Oh," Essie goes, "Well, it says Soweto. That could be anybody. Why are you saying that my Freedom got it?" And Sarah was like, "LaDonnie lives in Soweto." And LaDonnie was pointing at her. She was like, "Don't you dare do that." And she goes, Sarah goes, "Well, your dad's rich. Can he just buy you a new one?" And LaDonnie goes, "Well, what does that have to do with you?" So, uh, Moop goes, "Freedom, where is my phone? I know you stole it." And he goes, "Oh, what are you talking about?" No, 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 no. He said, "Oh, I must have partied too hard. I feel like I've been hit by a bus. Oh, we got the whole Destiny's Child in here. What are you here for?" And Moon goes, "Oh, you took my phone. I want my phone back." Freedom goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, and Mook goes, "Oh, maybe we can accompany you to the police station to find my phone." And he goes, "Do what you want. I will accompany you to the police station." Sarah was like, "Get out, Moope, get out. You and LaDonnie, get out." LaDonnie throws the chairs like, "I'm already leaving." And then Sarah was like, "Moope, I said get out." Okay, so the scene shifts, and Joyce and um, that man is in like a little tavern type of place, and they're talking, blah, 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 blah. And then Joyce says, "Excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom." So, he's just twirling his fingers, and then all of a sudden he sees the minister and Matipa. So he goes, "Oh, minister." And he said, "Conrad Gomorrah." And he goes, another man's loss is another man's gain. She works for me now. She's a very hard worker. I love the progress that she's doing. And Jonas was like, yes, yes, she is, sizing up Matifa with his eyes. And then uh, he goes, number one is calling me. I gotta go. And then so they're standing there and Matipa goes, excuse me, I gotta go powder my nose. And he straight up throws her to the wall. Boom. And he goes, are you fucking him? Are you fucking him? And Matipa's like, I don't have to answer to you, bitch. And then he goes, I don't like this. And Matipa was like, what would your wife, Jonas say, uh, Joyce say, father of her children, when she would wonder where you are? And he just kept staring at her. Matipa was getting hot and heavy. And then they had like a flashback of Jonas and Matipa getting it on in the office. And then Jonas just walks away. So the scene shifts and we are in Sawatu at Essie's house. And Essie was like, return Moonbay's phone. And Sarah was like, I don't have Moon's phone. And Essie was like, Sarah, return Moon's phone. And she goes, I don't have Moon's phone. And she goes, Sarah, look at me. So Sarah and her are just looking at each other. And then Sarah just goes and cutting the dough bread. And Essie's just rolling her eyes. So the scene shifts, and we are in the room where they got in trouble and stuff like that. So Mizzy had his headphones on, and Jonah's old ass taking some off his head and was like, why would you let Moon and her friends run amok in my house? And you're supposed to be the man of the house, uh, Menzi. And he was like, I was really trying to stop it. You can ask who? Boom. And he goes, boom. And he goes, no. Jonas goes, no. And then Poom was like, you haven't been a man of this house for a year. What are you talking about? So he looked over like, who is this girl talking to? And he's like, who are you talking to? And Moop was like, oh, you want to play daddy now. Remember, have you forgotten that you wasn't even in this house? And then Jonas had to shut the fuck up because he know he wasn't in the house. Okay, so he sees like an empty bottle, so he throws the bottle on the floor and was like, I'm not your buddy. You do not talk to me like that. And then he says something to Menzi. I got caught up in the scene, so I forgot what he said to Menzi. And then he just bomb rushes Menzi and starts choking the life out of him. And then Joyce was like, stop. And Mopay was like, stop, you're gonna kill him. And then Joyce pushes Jonas off of him. And Jonas is like fixing his little cuffs on his shirt and walks out the room. And Menzi, he's trying hard not to cry, but he's holding it in. And then Moonpei's like, you okay, bro? You okay? And then Joyce was like, baby, it's all right, baby, it's all right. And then that's when Minzy cries. And that's the end of the show. And I'll see you in the next.